All of you, wonderful. As I said when we started, it's just a fabulous match and pair of technology discussion, and finished with, I'm so glad those people had that same response I do. 'Cause with every time I use my voice recognition, I yell at it. I think, John, you said you've done some work, and they say things immediately after that. Oh, we won't go there.
That was anecdotal.
Anecdotal. There's the, yeah. That's, John, the reason I'm reading this question first is it's a very good question, but more importantly, it's in bright pink, so I don't need my reading glasses for it. It says, I'm sure you have a strong opinion about security issues related to open software development. Please share them.
Wow. Well, that's going to be a first. A question about open source in pink ink.
Yeah.
Love it.
Well, it's very nice.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm conscious of time. I'm conscious of what people are trying to, or what we stand between you. So, I mean, quickly, software development, I think in open provides a more transparent view of the software. There is a maxim that goes out in the industry: more eyeballs on the problem, less problems are faster found. I mean, it is a debate. It is a conversation to be had. I welcome it. Again, there are rules, there are places for closed source, but they're diminishing in time. And I think in the automotive industry, especially in the space that we're operating in and moving so quickly, I think the open model is certainly one that needs to be more fully explored and taken advantage of.
Juhi, do you have any thoughts on the open source model?
Yes. So I think the whole notion of like open innovation, open source, and all that is really great to have more developers. I don't think we can really cope with the growing expectation of our current and future customers by going everything in vertical. So the technical question is more about how can we create a good technical solution just to create certain type of like a firewall or a sandbox that we talk about to really be able to accomplish that goal. Because the idea is great, the execution is obviously the actual challenge.
Isn't that the case with most things? The idea is great, it's just doing it right that's so challenging. I mean, voice recognition is a great idea, but you've proven it's not so great. Han, do you see bio-based renewable materials playing a role in your interiors? Has there been any pull at all from the marketplace for that, from your customers or your customers' customers?
Yeah, so bio-based materials is definitely a topic with us. The natural fiber substrate technology that I mentioned in my presentation. I think lightweighting comes before material selection towards biomaterials, but it's clearly a topic in our development.
Is that a topic in all markets? Is that a bigger topic in Europe, North America, or Asia?
I think in terms of lightweighting and natural materials, probably Europe is number one, is pushing the hardest towards CO2 reduction overall.
Back to the biomaterials as a pull, and lightweight certainly another very important pull for fuel economy. Is the biomaterials in Europe a bigger pull, or in North America?
Not specifically, no. From my experience, no real difference.
Kristen, thanks, by the way, for like I said, the videos. I don't feel like I'm alone anymore. I've struggled so badly with my system. Do you see the lack of competition in voice recognition systems a reason for the lack of good solutions?
I think that would come down to the paradigm shift and challenging the way to do things and do things better, because we've been in those conversations where you can see the logic behind you can't get there because X, Y, and Z reasons. And so I think there is an opportunity for someone to come in and think differently, to be able to get the system to operate at a level that we haven't seen. Because once again, customers want this. So there's an opportunity here to do something different.
Juhi and John both, your companies have voice recognition systems. Do you see similar responses from your customers? Do you see anything positive in the last couple of years? She had some really impressive data there about the challenges it presents. Juhi?
So I mentioned briefly about introducing online-based speech service in our cars. So there's clearly a limitation of using the embedded the processing power to do more comprehensive and naturalistic speech recognition. However, yes, the embedded systems are becoming faster and faster, but we also observe that really leveraging the cloud power, then you can do much more things. And other aspect of what people get used to from the mobile is once you're just talking to your mobile phone, there's also high level of personalization that the phone can learn or the server can learn, which also exists in the car. But then when you get a new car, you have to also kind of go through that little bit of a learning process from your side, and also teaching process for the car to also adapt to you. So we're looking into the future where with the cloud and so on, that maybe that knowledge about the driver can be transferred from one car to other.
John?
So market research data, suggests that for customers who have purchasing, that it's a huge percentage for why they bought it, and it's certainly a large percentage for people who would recommend either themselves to rebuy or for their friends to buy. So that input tells us, yes, to Kristen's point, voice, we're achieving that level. That voice is absolutely helpful. But yeah, we're told by our customers on a regular basis about how can we get better, how can we improve it, whether it's the speed of the recognition, the free-form recognition, which was being talked about, like having to know the phrases. So again, we listen to that. Part of one of our responses is, certainly as part of our release with AppLink, is voice pass-through, which was a technology so that we took the voice of the mic and passed it to the phone for off-board processing. So as a developer, if you want to try and solve additional problems, we're going to give you the audio so that you can experiment with it, understand it, etc. So again, always trying to understand what the customer wants, understanding that the vehicle has a lifespan of its own, and that the customers have a lifespan of their own.
Kristen, do the voice recognition systems for phones work better than the voice recognitions for cars?
There's a few elements at play here. One is the environment, right? So the environment of a vehicle is brutal, and you can't look past that. When you think about road noise and wind noise and passengers and just cabin environment, it's a very tough environment versus a cell phone, and being able to hold the phone near your mouth to talk. And so a lot of it just comes down to the environment itself, where the differences are.
Question for you. As a young person myself, I am interested in buying a car, important from all the discussions, as soon as I can afford one. Do you think car interiors will have more than just color options in the future? I don't know, in the 90s, the 5-day car or the build-to-order or the ability to design your own, not design, but almost choose pieces to your own interior was a great topic. This idea that we can make it customizable enough.
So I can give a lot of answers to that question. I do not believe in customizing your car by taking parts out and putting new parts in. We've seen experiments of several OEMs in the past decades that had been a very small success. But we're looking at, and part of our vision for the interior of the future is that all that plastic surface will turn smart in some form or shape, intelligent. And part of making those surfaces smart is reconfigurability of those surfaces in terms of every surface becomes a display. You can change colors, patterns, and so forth. I touched on the topic of car ownership versus car usership that we see happening more and more towards the future, especially with young people. They use cars, they don't own cars. And then I talked a little bit about what you want when you enter a car like that. You want it to be clean, you want it to smell fresh, and so forth. But what you really want is when you enter a car is that it turns into your environment. So when you are able to create the specifics of the interior that you want to have, even if it's not your car, but you enter it and the colors of the interior start to adapt to what you've programmed with your smartphone or in another way. The lighting of the interior adjusts to where you want it to be. The entertainment systems go in the direction where you want them to be. So that personalization of the interior is going to be is a key topic, and it's going to be more important. This
is a question I think the whole panel can take a shot at. from very different perspectives. Who is going to control the interface of the future? Will Ford and GM, or Ford or Volkswagen or the vehicle manufacturers control that interface? Will Apple, Google, or even the government, or maybe even the consumers? Who's going to be the one responsible for that interface? John, why don't we start with you, and because you're the one that started the open source question.
Because I'm the one that started the open source question.
It's all your fault.
It's all my fault. So who's going to control it? I think so John Werniak, and we've had conversations, and then I had the pleasure of being invited to speak with John at the Product Development Center in Diamond Bar. And we had this conversation because I think there's this mental mindset that it's an either or it's an winner-take-all perspective. And certainly when I first started at Ford, was probably even guilty of such thinking. Since I've been at Ford now for the last 2.5 years, I've grown to appreciate the difficulties in terms of the regulatory environment, the safety environment, the other aspects that, as a consumer, just driving a car, I thought I was a smart guy. And I didn't even come close to understanding the complexity aspect. Now that I'm here and seeing it from the inside out, I look at my friends on the West Coast and say, well, it's not either or. There's lots of things that you need to consider. There's lots of stuff that we have to understand. Yes, we can be bold. Yes, we can be brash. Yes, we can use foul language and do all sorts of cool stuff. But at the end of the day, there is this intersection that we have to be respectful of. I don't know exactly where it's at, but there is roles for the regulators. There are roles for the automotive engineers, as I've defined it, and there are roles for the West Coast or the dynamic app development. I'm not really sure yet how it's going to settle. So from Ford's perspective, we want to make sure that we're always a safe vehicle, hands on the wheel, eyes on the road, and that we make sure that we're achieving the customer satisfaction at whatever that's what's at the end of the day, as I always say to people, we do everything we do because we're trying to sell cars, not because we want to do the kinds of cool stuff we want to sell cars.
Chuhi, Volkswagen has a great partnership now with Google Maps and some of the work you've done with them in terms of seeing that on the Audi and Volkswagen and others. Who's going to control that interface in the future? Is it the car manufacturer? Is it the software people?
I think I would agree with John's comment about it will be a distributed responsibility. Yeah, there's a responsibility from the user, just not to, let's say, overdo things. And no matter what we do, the user can always get distracted or close your eyes, whatever, right? So there is a responsibility of the user, and obviously from car manufacturer point of view, that kind of question goes always like, hey, what kind of a unique brand experience are we bringing? So because if we let all the user interaction being brought up by the mobile phone, and all of a sudden, is that really our like product brand experience, or it's an extension of some other brand's experience? So there is always this friction when you think about embracing the mobile devices. However, the ultimate the direction of what design philosophy we take, both for those companies like Google and Apple and the OEM, will be how can we really satisfy the driver's needs. If the driver's needs is something, and let's say making a phone call, do we really care it's the Apple way of saying that making the phone call? Is the Volkswagen? No, it should be the very naturalistic human way of just, hey, make that phone call. And then we look into that.
Han, I want to ask you this from a different perspective in a moment, but Kristen, you had the OEM experience for years and years. You've now looked at this from a researcher side. Your idea on that give and take?
I would agree with what both gentlemen have said so far, but I'd like to take a different twist on it. So when you think about the customer and the customer experience, when they have an issue with the vehicle, no matter who designed the system, it's going to go back to the manufacturer. And so I think as a result, it's going to be that manufacturer that's going to need to have the sole ownership. Now, the ownership may be from driving the ship, because you're going to have very many, you're going to have a significant number of partners to be able to help get you there from a West Coast perspective, even other manufacturers, discussions with the government. But it's really going to come back to the decisions that manufacturer takes, and them needing to take the ownership, because when the customer feedback comes back, it's to them in particular.
Han, you've JCI is, I think, divested in some of the electronics, but you come into contact with the electronics, you come into contact with the driver of the vehicle and the vehicle manufacturers. What's your perspective as you look at this from a little bit removed from the technology point, and clearly that touch point is important to you, but you're a step back. Who runs that touch point? Who runs the interaction at the vehicle or at the HMI touchpad?
So in our position, we're all about integrating that technology into the vehicle interior. We do have a vision that the surfaces around the driver and the other passengers in the interior will become interactive in some form or shape, whether it's through projecting information or interfacing with the vehicle or other technology. So our role is the integrator role.
Interesting. All right. We're a little bit over time, and we don't want to stand between you and the northern Michigan sunshine. Real quick question. Chuhi, you started us out a long time ago now this afternoon, talking about the perfect driving experience, I think you had mentioned. 5 years from now, what's the one thing that you're looking at, that you're working on in your lab that's going to make people say, this has made the driving experience better?
So I hope to see the car is capable of anticipating your need and being able to satisfy that. And yes, there are a lot of other companies trying to do so as well. But I'm more from what the car can do the best, because the car still has an advantage compared to maybe a mobile device that you might bring into the car in terms of understanding the environment, what is the right moment of delivering a message. If you're making a certain like a maneuver, or like entering into curve, or there's like emergency braking, then the car is the one that knows the best how to deal with such a situation and being able to react to that. So not only just the car can predict where you will go and just give you all the traffic information and so on and so forth, but the car is also linking the environmental knowledge with the information that's coming.
Is that within 5 years? Is that 5 years out?
I don't have.
I'm not. It's curious to know. That's a big step.
In terms of understanding, where the prediction models, I think within 5 years is.
Very good. Han, how about you? The interior's innovation in the next 5 years that's going to make people's driving experience more perfect.
Okay, so the big idea. I think the complexity, overall I think the interior is going to be more important. People spend increasingly more and more time in the interior. They will spend less and less time driving the vehicle going forward. Autonomous driving is coming, it's coming fast, and it will not be a digital switch from driving to not driving. But less and less time will be spent on driving. I have a colleague, he owns a Mercedes E-Class. I talked about this feature. He has a few traffic jams on his way to work. He does his email driving to work. So it's not one big idea, but it will be this transition towards autonomous driving and totally different requirements for the interior that makes me very excited about the job that I have, and I look really forward to the innovations that are going to make it in the interior in the next decade. It's going to be a lot of innovation.
John, clearly cloaking device to avoid the state police would be big, but other than cloaking device, in your world, what do you see?
Part of we talk about the world of connectivity, and the model that we look at is the mobile device in the consumer space, and a defining focus point of that is software updating and the fact that the device evolves over time, either through the user's explicit download and use of applications, or as well as the manufacturer's push of new capabilities to the phone. I think for me, what will be exciting is that in 5 to 10 years, we will be at a point where, we're already doing, a number of vendors are doing software updating. They're doing it through sticks, and we're getting there. So we were on that path, as Han talked about. It's not a digital, it'll happen over time, it will transpire. But there will be a time in the future where you will buy the vehicle, and over its 10-year lifetime with you, it will change. potentially physically, as Han talked about, but also definitely intelligence-wise. As more software can become available, as the things that we're able to accomplish, whether it's voice recognition or other, then we're able to push that out. And so for me, that beautiful aha moment is, a customer comes back after 3 years saying, holy cow, it was a great car when I bought it. It's even a better car now, and I can't wait to come back in 5 years' time to buy the next car. That, I think, is where we're going.
Kristen, you get the last word, and it's your years from the OEM side. Now you flip over, and you're a researcher. What's the challenge that's either going to be that aha moment, or what do you think is, or what is the technology, or even maybe, what is the one that's going to cause the biggest problem? Fascinating discussion on voice recognition here. Is there another one of those on the horizon?
I would say another element on the horizon is a level of personalization. So people are looking for the experience within the car to be that relationship, right? For the car to know them, to understand what they're looking to do, to anticipate them, and to be able to create that personalized experience. So some of it can be from simple, personalization within different interfaces within the vehicle, but then it comes back to that adaptation, right? To be able to understand what you're doing in your life and make things simpler. To be able to fit you personally, where you're walking away from the experience saying, this vehicle was built for me, from an intuitiveness perspective, from the comfort perspective, but then to be able to make your life simple and to work with you versus that feeling of working against you.
That just prompted me to think of something, because it is a topic that we think about today, and that is, it's fascinating. There's experiments being done by phone manufacturers. If I gave Han my phone, that it's an iPhone, he'd probably know how to get to the dialer, but he wouldn't know how to use my phone, because it's been very customized to me. So we're getting to a point where if I customize my car and I do things to my car over a period of time, my car cannot necessarily be used by someone else. They'll know how to drive, like they'll get behind the wheel, but they won't know how to use my car. And we as OEMs and we as the industry run serious risk of someone having an experience for the first time ever with a vehicle, making an assumption about the broad experience and then saying, I don't like that, or I don't like that brand, or I don't like that experience. And we run massive risk. And so then we run the risk of customers being more ticked off about what was going on. I personally prefer that world. It's a fascinating world. It's one that gives us lots of opportunity. But it is a world that's got lots of challenges.
And I was going to actually build on your comment. So I think one of the opportunities can you take that customizable experience with you, vehicle to vehicle, right? And that's one of the challenges to say, can you start to build that and carry it through?
And Han talked, I think Han and others talked of the users renting the vehicles or the car sharing. That exactly thing, taking it on your phone, basically. First, thank you all for staying on a beautiful Northern Michigan afternoon. Thanks to the panel, great panel this afternoon, good discussion. They should be around the rest of the evening to talk to. Enjoy the